For me, the best thing about this morning was that we know it deep down. This is a vocation we're in. We teach because we love it, and it just brings some of that sort of idealism, that philosophy back. And we know that this is the way forwards, and this is how we can improve. And we want to improve. We want to be better practitioners.
The end of the morning on day one of a two-day coaching training workshop led by Mike Hughes, one of the best-known coaching trainers in education in the UK. The 65 people are from all levels of teaching, from all kinds of schools in the West Midlands region. A packed house is not unusual on these occasions. Mike Hughes is fully booked for months ahead.
I think what I'm trying to do is to invite people or challenge people to consider how effective their current professional development provision is. So how effective are your inset days? Do people go away after an inset day and change their practice and sustain that change?
Having been a widely practiced technique for many years in industry and business, coaching is now catching on in schools. It's seen by its followers as a highly effective way of driving up standards.
I'm just sowing seeds and suggesting that maybe the current model of professional development is quite a limited one. The other thing that I'm trying to do is to make some suggestions, is to provide people with some information, with some tools, with some techniques to say, okay, coaching's an option. The idea that you can package everything into a neat kind of coaching session doesn't work for me. That said, you've got to know the rules, if you like, in order to be able to adapt them and adopt them to particular circumstances. And what I want to do is I want to share with you a framework that you could use as a template for a coaching session. Many people find it helpful. It's called the GROW model. GROW model: goal, reality, options, what next? What we're really doing when we're trying to help somebody help themselves is helping people to identify where they are, helping people to identify where they would like to be, and helping them identify how they're going to get there.
Coaching training draws on a well-established body of models, techniques and procedures. There is some lecturing from the front, but not much. Mostly, the emphasis is on activities that work towards coaching's crucial aim. It should end up as a kind of self-help activity that can be taken away from here by teachers and developed by themselves in their schools.
The responsibility and the control, if you like, lie with the individual. It's not a process that's done to people where the control and the power and the influence lie with the coach. The coach is a helper, not an enabler, not a forcer. For me, it lies at the essence of everything that coaching is about. Coaching is done by people. They own the process. They're the person in charge. If coaching is a non-judgmental process, the goal must belong to the person being coached. What would you like to talk about today? I'd like to talk about X, Y, and Z. And even though you're thinking, no, you're missing the point, you need to be talking about A, B, and C, it's their goal, not yours. The vast majority of schools and teachers are good, very good, even excellent, and still we're being asked to improve. And I'm unconvinced that we're going to improve further simply by telling teachers.
Wendham High School in Norfolk launched a coaching programme 2 months ago. It's being developed by teachers trained at the Mike Hughes workshop. Mike has recommended a whole school approach, with groups working in trios, observing, reviewing and developing the skills of the coaches. Jenny Lincoln, assistant head, is going to be coached in this session, and surprisingly perhaps, by a history teacher, David Bartram. AST Jane Holland will be observing. It's close to the lunch break, and the three of them meet to set up the aims of the exercise. David will be coaching, Jane will be observing, and the issue is a problem Jenny has identified with her Year 10 drama group.
One of the things I think I intimated kind of in the corridor was that I was having some difficulties with a particular Year 10 group, because I started here in September of last year as a new teacher to this school, and as assistant head teacher. So I just haven't been able to establish, I don't think, a rapport with them. This is a GCSE group, and I've not really encountered this in this kind of way before, and so I felt that throughout the autumn term, I've really it's been kind of like a roller coaster. Some lessons have been fine, some lessons have been like, I felt quite disappointed with the lessons. And part of it, I think, if I'm being really honest, is that my teaching, in terms of being an assistant head, my teaching has almost become, dare I say it, kind of sideline. And I feel sometimes that I've not really been focusing, and then when the lesson hasn't gone the way I wanted it, I've ended up sort of sitting the class down and ranting and raving. Without really thinking that actually I'm not really taking account of the mix in the group.
Right, okay. Yeah, it's an issue that I think a lot of us have with individual groups at various stages, and we can't quite put our finger on exactly why it is. Why is it this group? Is it me? Is it them? I
do think individually the students are great, and parents' evenings, they've come along with their parents, and I get on fine with them. But as a group, the group dynamic is quite difficult. So I kind of came into that, and it's come kind of like really large in my opinion about this particular class, and I've got a bit of a hang-up about it. I mean, sometimes I actually feel, when I go in the classroom, I feel their hostility towards me, and I know that, particularly in the autumn term, less so now, that when I walk into the classroom, I actually have to sort of psych myself up to teach them. And I haven't felt like that for a long time. It makes you kind of feel a bit incompetent. You think, oh my God, I'm supposed to be an assistant head teacher.
You're supposed to be good.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be good.
Yeah,
actually, David, I am. There are times I've walked out and I have wanted to. I've got quite upset by the situation. I'm used to GCSE groups, not for developing good relationships, and that's really, I think, what I want you to look at is the way I relate to them and the kind of environment that I create. Fast, quickly, fast. That bump into people and slow it right down. Shoot! No laughing. Focus. Everyone. Right, stop. Year 10, stop. When I'm frightened, I don't walk around with a great big grin on my face. So I'm going to give you a minute just to rehearse it by yourselves, and I mean by yourselves. Mark it for a sign. Listen how strong I'm. Mark it for a sign of the devil. The devil has come among us. How's the devil show his face? It is a sin to conjure with the dead. That's what I want it done like, please. Sonia, how are you getting on? You need to sort of stand your body up, don't you? And get quite sort of strong. And keep your... Go on then, have a go.
Mark it for the sign of the devil. The devil has come.
Right, eyes up, looking heavenward.
The devil has come.
It says individual work, folks. Spread it right out.
It is the sin to come to.
Right, keep strong legs. So keep it neutral.
The devil has come among us.
Yeah, okay. Mark it for a sign.
Mark it for the sign of the devil. The devil has come among us. How does the devil show his face? It's a sin to conjure with the dead.
Well done. Be a bit confident.
Mark it for the sign of the devil. The devil has come among us. How does the devil show his face? It's a sin to conjure with the dead.
Not bad at all. Well done. The words are difficult, okay? You'll find that when you come to learn the text. Shh. And stop. Hold it. Right, we're going to do it all together. Come a bit closer. Right. We're going to lose a line, I think. No, we'll keep it. We'll keep it. Mark it for a sign of the devil. The devil has come among us. How does the devil show his face? It is a sin to conjure with the dead. Yep, and we're looking around. We're drawing us all in.
The third stage of the process is a review with David coaching Jenny.
You know, I've known you for 9 months since you joined the school. I don't find you remotely aggressive, and my impression is that people don't find you remotely aggressive, which has very negative connotations, but you are very energetic, and it's clear. I mean, that was an obvious observation from today's lesson. You know, you are well and truly up for this. This is, you know, every lesson counts, and this is something that I'm really passionate about. And
it's scary.
But people perhaps, you know, show their passion or show their interest or show their enthusiasm in different ways.
When you are kind of trying to get that feeling, that atmosphere, and it's so important, that it's quite a tall order, and it's my manner, I think, can bring people's defences up, maybe.
It's the only lesson I've ever seen, of course, and therefore I don't know on a scale of 1 to 10 how irritated you got in today's lesson. But I mean, how does your irritation sort of manifest itself?
I think it's where I just go into the glaring mode.
Which is particularly scary, may I say.
Scary. I do that a lot. Or I end up nagging. And I absolutely hate when I hear myself nagging. I sometimes say to him, "You're turning me into a nag." And I do sort of stop and say it to me. And they weren't today. Today I thought they were okay, they were fine.
What became apparent to me was the speed with which you say things.
Yeah, I'm fast. Yeah.
Not only necessarily a sentence takes, X number of seconds, but then the speed with which the next sentence comes. That sort of issue I was sort of thinking about as I was looking at it. I've written it down, and I've got to be honest, it's not an original thought of mine. I was talking to Jane whilst we were watching the lesson, and she talked about this idea of thinking time, because at one point in particular it seemed to me was a possible issue. Have you discussed it with them?
Yes, I have. But I think what I do, David, is I rant. I end up getting so cross. I just launch like an exocet, and then that just changes the whole atmosphere. I know what you're saying, and I think that's a good point, because I think to sit down and have more of a kind of calm conversation, rather than what I tend to do, I tend to get quite het up. And then I know what exactly that does. They close down, she's ranting, and nothing can come from that. So it's just me letting off steam and losing the plot. And really, I think you'll say, I need to have a rational conversation with them. And because I don't like it, because what happens if I do lose my temper and get cross and everything, it changes the atmosphere. And I have done that. I had to stop the lesson. I said, "Look what you've done." And it's like, in a way, I'm having a temper tantrum.
Shutters go down,
yeah,
for yourself, but also from them
and
as well.
it makes me, I don't feel, if I want to move around and be like I am, it makes it very difficult if you've just had a rant and everything. Well, you know what it's like, isn't it? The class atmosphere changed, and you feel really disappointed.
And there's nowhere for you to go then either.
No.
So once you've got into that position, you're stuck. How do you sort of redeem yourself from that sort of very negative setup, really? And
I think, I don't know if I'm just imagining this, I'm being paranoid, but I'm sure I once was coming out of Southall and I heard one of them say, "I think she hates us."
That's interesting.
And I think, yeah.
Do you?
No, of course I don't. No.
No, and that's the point. So there's a perception, perhaps,
Well, I don't like
for
them.
whatever reason, and maybe that's a barrier that needs to be addressed and broken down.
I might just sit down and I might get them to evaluate me as a classroom teacher. I might get them to say to me what they think my lessons are like, how I engage with them, what they don't like about my lessons, and why.
So in other words, one thing in the very short term that you can begin to do is address the root issue, which is the mismatch perhaps between where you are and where a lot of them appear to be. At least in your mind, there's a bit of a mismatch with where you would want them to be and where they currently are. So in the short term, actually address that.
Yeah, I think that's the way forward.
One of the great strengths of working in groups of 3 is the ability to help the coach improve their coaching skills.